Welcome back to the Rounding Third podcast. I'm Nick, and we got Sean and Harrison with us again tonight. How we doing, fellas?
Good. How are you, Nick?
Not too bad. How about you, Sean?
Good. I'm doing good. Feeling better. So I'm ready to rock and roll.
Awesome. Sound way better. All
yeah,
right.
I read the last week and I was just like, oh my God, I sounded awful. I don't sound much better now.
It's all good.
Yeah, Sean's back.
Yeah. So just remind everybody to like and share our page, Rounding Third. You can subscribe on YouTube. We appreciate it. We've had a lot of interactions with a lot of people, so keep it up. We've been having a blast with this, so thank you very much.
Yeah, love it.
So we're leading off today. We're going to talk about the awards that just came out. So we're going to recap them. First, Manager of the Year, Gabe Kapler and Kevin Cash. I mean, we like the Kapler pick. Sean picked the Cash pick. I mean, I hate it personally because, I get it. He brought a good team there, but what Scott Service did in Seattle was completely unexpected. No one expected that.
No.
Yeah, no, I'll agree. I'll agree that nobody expected Seattle to do what Seattle does. But, I think if we continue year after year to dump on the Tampa Bay organization by saying that they have such a little payroll and that they don't provide good players and they trade away all their good players, and Cash continually wins 95 to 100 games every year. We got to start saying, this guy's a really good manager. And not for nothing, but he's doing that in the American League East.
Right. I mean, it's
got to count for something.
Yeah.
I struggle giving the Manager of the Year to the guy who managed the team that was expected to win the division. However, to Sean's point, he's doing it with a bunch of young guys and unknowns, and you got to tip your hat to what he's done. It's just a struggle to give this guy back-to-back Manager of the Year awards when in reality they were supposed to be where they were each year.
Well, they were, but let's put this year in perspective. This team was third place in the American League East for quite a while. They just kind of bided their time, and the Sox jumped out to a hot start. The Yankees were slow, and then the Yankees came roaring back, and the Sox cooled down a little. And meanwhile, Tampa just did what Tampa does. They didn't, and to me, that's a reflection on your manager, your ability to just stay the course.
I'm more mad that Cash ruined my clean sweep of the board. That's what I'm more mad about.
It's really just all about Nick here. If you didn't catch that.
But we actually just got word today that the Comeback Player of the Year was announced. Trey Mancini slam dunk for the AL. I mean, what that guy overcame, testicular cancer, to come back and put up a decent year for an organization that we've talked about before that is just struggling at the bottom of the AL East. And then Buster Posey in the NL got it for comeback there.
Yeah, if anybody voted against Mancini, they should have their credential revoked. I mean, that when from his first at bat in spring training, he got the standing O then. He got it. He got it the first at bat of the season this year. He got it everywhere he went. I mean, for what that guy battled back from, there's no doubt he should have gotten it. And Posey the same. Here's a guy that people thought was broken and out of gas, and came back and gave one of his better seasons in what's going to be his final season.
Yeah, it's almost one of those, you can't do it, but I don't think Buster Posey or anyone, but especially Buster, I don't think anyone would have cared if Mancini got Major League Baseball play. If they gave out one and it went to Trey Mancini. Right. You know what I mean? The story, that guy's come back and just incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Yeah, insane. And for someone that's gone through a whole bunch of stuff this past year, and I get it. It's insane.
It's crazy.
So Cy Young's Robbie Ray was kind of we didn't really think there was anybody that could compete.
Right.
It was the NL that was kind of wishy-washy. We had Scherzer, we had Burns, we had Zach Wheeler, and no one knew which way they go, but of course, they must have listened to the podcast and listened to me and made a good argument because Corbin Burns wins the NL. But, like we said, he led you know, a lot of categories
Yep.
this year. I mean, where did I put it? I wrote it down, Sean. Struck out 58 batters before issuing his first walk of the season. He started
Absolutely
the season 58 Ks without a walk.
Remarkable.
Those are like from the days of Schilling.
Dude, those are video game numbers. You don't do that in the MLB.
And like we said, especially in today's baseball, because like today it's like it's strikeouts, home runs, and then the one thing we leave out is walks are all over it. Especially with the young power arms nowadays, like everyone cares more about power than they do location. So it's like walks are just littered throughout this league. For what this guy did, 58-0 is insane. Insane.
No, it's amazing, and he clearly was the right pick. I think a lot of us, except for Nick, were leaning towards Wheeler because he had the stat line that you always look for that award. But when you look at just pure dominance, it was Burns. I just never thought the writers would give it to him because of his record.
The 11-5, the 11-5 record is like that's like cringeworthy. We
had talked about it a couple. We had talked about it a couple weeks earlier. I mean, the years that Roger Clemens got screwed because he had lack of wins. He had the great numbers except for the wins. Like the wins matter to the writers. I don't know why.
They do.
But this year, I'm glad they got it right because I think that was the right pick.
Yeah, that's got to be one of the lowest win totals of a Cy Young winner, if not the lowest. I didn't see a stat on that, but you don't see a lot of Cy Young winners with less than like 18 wins. It just doesn't happen.
Oh yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything else that would be lower than that.
No, but he was so dominant.
I mean, he only pitched 167 innings too.
Yep.
So like, this is the thing is like these starters, you're not going to see these 250 to 300 inning guys anymore. Like even when Randy Johnson was pitching, you know, he was you know, like it's not going to happen. But yeah, crazy. So then the AL MVP, we got Shohei Ohtani. He was unanimous. I mean, yeah, he was the sexy pick, right?
Yep.
But I mean, for Vlad not to get one first place vote, I thought was kind of silly.
I find that astonishing.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's let's be honest, it's an offensive award. Like the last pitcher to win an MVP was what, Verlander in 14 or something like that. I mean, it's just like pitchers don't get MVPs, and like it just becomes an offensive award by default. But I mean, it does. I get it.
But what there's like, but by giving it to Shohei, I mean, what they're saying is like it's become an offensive award, but it's not an offensive award. Like if you are out there and you are doing what you're doing to help your team win games. LA didn't win a lot of games, but you're helping your team, you know, do what you do. And if part of what you do is on the mound, then I mean that's going to help, you know. And I just think he just does what we haven't seen in forever.
But there's always that one voter that leaves Derek Jeter off the Hall of Fame ballot. You know,
I guess.
I mean, I kind of am what more shocked about, really.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair, I guess.
But yeah, Doug says Felix Hernandez for win total. Was that lower than Corbin Burns? I know Felix was 500 with his Cy Young, but I don't know if he was younger.
Yeah, so I'm looking it up right now. I don't.
Oh, you got it.
I'm gonna look it up. I don't. He was 13 and 12.
Yeah,
13.
So still not 11. Sorry.
No, still not 11, but a pretty modest win total for a Cy Young. But I think when you back to Ohtani, I think everybody acknowledges the guy had a ridiculous year. I mean, to be able to pitch at a high level and hit at a high level is impressive. But you look at the MVP award, was he the best hitter in the league? No. He was one of the best, but he wasn't the best. Was he the best pitcher in the league? No. But was he really, really good at both? And was he one of probably the top 3 or 4 hitters in the league? Yeah, he was. But I think in the body of work, you know, you could make the argument. He contributed in multiple ways, making him more valuable. Did the Angels win? No. But you can't hold that against him anymore. This MVP award so seldom goes to a player on a winning team anymore, it seems. It goes to a lot of these middle of the pack teams. So,
well,
I mean, he had an unprecedented year.
But I think that's also because we're seeing year after year, more and more, like WAR is beginning to become like that number one statistic, right? Like, and not that I totally disagree with it, because I think it's a bit of a silly statistic to look at as like the number one. Like, that's why this guy's great or that's why he's not great. Like, I think it's a little silly, but the stat has value, right? Like, I mean, the Angels have got to be, and this has come completely off the top of my head. I might be pulling this out of my ass. I have no idea. But this roster, as it's constituted right now, has 2 American League MVPs on it, and they stink. Like, that's crazy. Like, you're a team that stinks, and you have 2 MVPs who are like, and neither one of them's washed up. Like, these are legitimately nasty players.
Your surrounding cast really is not Anthony Rendon at third. You got Jared Walsh that put up 35 home runs himself. Like, what is going on?
I don't get it, dude. I mean, it's obviously, we've said it. I mean, we've said that. So they go out, they get Syndergaard, they go out. I saw today Aaron Loop was 2 or 3 years that signed there.
Yeah.
So they're trying to address the pitching staff. But I just thought that was great. Like, I'm looking at that, Rob, like, you have 2 in their prime MVPs and you stink. That's insane.
It's amazing. So back to the win total thing. Technically, there was a Cy Young winner who only had 2 wins, and that was in 2003 when Eric Gagne won it with 55 saves and a 1.2 ERA. So technically, he was 2 and 3 that year with 55 saves and a 1.2 ERA.
All right.
But yeah, I mean, a relief pitcher had a whole different ball game.
He had like 87 straight saves or something like that. Wasn't his save streak like ridiculous when he won?
Oh yeah, the guy struck out 137 hitters in 82 innings. I mean, it's insanity. He was almost 2 Ks per inning. I mean, he was so unhittable for like a 3-year stretch.
All right, we got way sidetracked. Okay, NL MVP Bryce Harper. Again, I think Harrison hit the nail on the head when we talked about this before about, the writers kind of needed him to win this award. Although he did win back in 2014.
Yeah, this is a second.
So, yeah, like, I don't know. I mean, I don't know their thinking, but I mean, I picked Harper, but I think that was Soto's award for sure.
Yep. No argument.
I mean, I picked Soto, so I don't have too much of an argument, but I'm looking like Bryce Harper wins it. Like, I didn't lose sleep over it. Like, it didn't ruin my night. Like, it's not like you picked somebody that wasn't worthy or that you couldn't make a case for.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame to see a young guy like Soto who had a real chance to have a real moment to be acknowledged for what he's done at his age, and he gets snubbed. But I don't think Soto's the kind of guy who's going to lose any sleep over it.
Well, get used to it, kid. I mean, it's not like these writers don't often. Often someone gets screwed once a year. It seems like in these awards.
Absolutely.
Get used to it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I mean, Harper 309, 35 homers, only 84 RBIs, but 100 walks, 100 runs.
I think the 309 is a big one for a guy like Harper.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like he's had the power years, he's had the years with the runs batted in, the total base years, but like for him to go a full season with a 309, like that's.
Yeah, he's usually like a 260 to 285 ish, like somewhere in there is usually where he sits. But so 309's decent.
Decent, yeah, shit, yeah.
I mean, it's probably still not even in the top 500 for best batting averages of all time.
No, I know.
It's decent. I'm just saying, I wouldn't say it was like.
No, but what I'm saying is for a guy like Bryce Harper, for the way that he's always played the game, and it's almost like the Phillies told him, hey, we need you to play a different style of baseball this year. We need you to be more centered around batting average, getting on base. He drew the 100 walks, as you mentioned. Like, it's almost like the Phillies said to him, like, hey, we need you to be different than the normal Bryce Harper. And he did. And, I think he deserves credit for that for sure.
Yeah,
he had a great season. I think what leaves a bad taste in people's mouth is how he ended the season. That Braves series when they were still kind of hovering around, and he took a big offer in a 3-game series and looked awful. I think that's it's that whole it's not how you start, it's how you finish. And his finish to the season was so bad when they needed him so bad. I think people just had a struggle seeing him get that award.
That's fair.
All right. Well, that does our awards recap. We're going to move on to fifth inning showdown, where this one could be very interesting. Should Pete Rose or steroid players be in the Hall of Fame? Before we get into that, the Hall of Fame ballot was released today, and I have those names. There's some pretty interesting names on this ballot. Prince Fielder, Bobby Abreu, Barry Bonds, Mark Burley, Roger Clemens, Carl Crawford, Todd Helton, Ryan Howard, Tim Hudson, Torrey Hunter, Andrew Jones, Jeff Kent, Tim Lincecum, Justin Morneau, Joe Nathan, David Ortiz, Jonathan Papelbon, Peavy, Andy Pettit, AJ Brzezinski, Manny Ramirez, Alex Rodriguez, Scott Rowland, Jimmy Rollins, Kurt Schilling, Gary Sheffield, Sammy Sosa, Mark Teixeira, Omar Vizquel, and Billy Wagner.
What are the qualifications to get on that ballot when you've got, Jake Peavy and Tim Lincecum, and there's another name, up at the beginning of it that caught me off guard too. There's some guys. There's some guys in there that were barely all stars. Yeah, Carl Crawford. Those guys were barely all stars, let alone Hall of Famers.
Yeah, that's part of my argument I might bring in later.
That's a weak ballot.
The ones that I starred, the ones that I think personally could get in there are Bonds, Clemens, Ortiz, Manny Ramirez, Alex Rodriguez, Gary Sheffield, Kurt Schilling, Sammy Sosa, and Billy Wagner. Out of that list, those are who I would put in.
Yeah, Kurt Schilling will never get in because the media hates him.
Yep.
He's like Ted Williams. Media hates the guy. He's been on that ballot for how many years has he been on the ballot now? Schilling?
This is his last year, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Isn't this his last shot?
It's the same thing with Bonds and Clemens.
Well, right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and then it goes to the there's the final election through the actual Hall of Fame members, right, where they can actually bring these guys in at the end.
Yeah. So what's our feelings on Pete Rose steroid guys?
I have no issue with it, to be honest with you. Like like in any sport, baseball, football, all this, like I lean towards like a small hall guy. Like I think in order to get into any type of Hall of Fame, like people should have to look at you and be like, oh, like you changed the game. Right. Like Tom Brady, like changed the way football was played. Peyton Manning changed the way it was played. Bobby Orr changed the way hockey was played. Yep. Ted Williams changed the way baseball was played, like the way he approached hitting. Like if you do that, like if you change the way the game is looked at and played, then yes, you belong in. But baseball Hall of Fame, dude, at this point it's a museum. Like it's not a shrine to like the greatest players ever. No. And that's not to take away people that were.
Sure.
Like the way the Hall of Fame is now, so at this point, like you're just keeping out steroid guys and Pete Rose, like just because like you guys like the old boys club and like you don't like the way they did it. Like you're not doing it out of principle because like you're letting people in. Like Carl Crawford shouldn't even be on a ballot. So like the fact that these guys are even on the ballot to get in, like I don't know. I just think at this point it's more of like a personal vendetta almost against these guys than it is about like the integrity of the league. Mm-hmm. You know?
Yeah, definitely. Like as soon as the Hall of Fame started letting everybody in, like, listen, we're all Boston homers. Jim Rice, to me, was he an outstanding player? Of course. Mm-hmm. Is he a baseball Hall of Famer? Like, was he the elite of the elite? Like, I don't necessarily know. Like, it took him a long time to get in and voted in, and it was kind of like, yeah, he had a pretty good career. Maybe we should put him in. It became a career achievement award versus like, you know, like when I think of baseball greats, it's Babe Ruth, it's Willie Mays, it's Jackie Robinson, it's those milestone guys, Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah,
you know,
Let me give you a stat line real quick. So, 1,988 games played in a career, 6,900 at bats, 2,160 hits, 1,311 RBIs, 383 home runs. Now, are those home run numbers? I mean, Hall of Fame numbers?
Probably not.
I would say your automatic bids to the Hall of Fame is 3,000 hits, 500 home runs, and probably a 300 career batting average.
So that's the career stat line of Larry Walker, who got in last year. I look at those stats and I go, man, Larry was a great player in his era, but he was, I mean, he wasn't of the elite. He was really, really good, but he wasn't the top 2%, 3%, 5% of players in the league at that time. He was just really good.
Yeah. I mean, and if you've ever been to the Baseball Hall of Fame, like all of Pete Rose, Barry Bonds, all these guys, their accomplishments are in the Hall of Fame. Everything that they have is in the Hall of Fame. Like Pete Rose's helmet when he broke the hit record, his jersey when he broke the hit record, his bat, like, you know, like Barry Bonds has his records on the wall. Like they're in the hall, but they're not in the hall. Like,
right. But that's what I was saying. Like, it's not, it's a museum. Like that's what the Hall of Fame is now. It's a museum. It's
Exactly.
not, it's in what it was intended to be, and what every Hall of Fame is intended to be, is it's supposed to be like, you know, you are the top 3% of all people that have ever played this game. And like, they're just, they don't stand by those standards anymore. Like, it's not like, I mean, Harrison, that's a great stat line for Larry Walker. Like, really good player. And I was a little too young for him, but had a really good career. I remember I watched him at the end of his career, very good. But like those numbers, those aren't Hall of Fame numbers. I'm sorry.
Well, and those are course field inflated numbers, which is even worse.
Yeah, right.
I mean, that was before humidors. That was before all they knew is that the ball carried a lot in course field. That's all they knew. I mean, I just look at those numbers and I go, "Wow, it's a good player. You know what? That's a great career." But it's not a Hall of Famer.
yeah.
Ed's got an interesting take here with Rose, and I think that's part of why Rose is still out. Is that I think he's fought hard. He's been loud. He's had a lot of stuff thrown at him, but ultimately, I think he's made himself somewhat unlikable. So the people that would want to give him a second chance are silenced by the people that just can't stand the man. And Joe Jackson's a great example of a guy who's probably not in the Hall of Fame for all the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Well, it's exactly what I said. I mean, it's almost like these writers, there's a personal vendetta against these guys more than it is about, like, it's such a hard thing to get out exactly what I'm trying to say, because if you performed on the baseball field at a level that should get you in the Hall of Fame, like Curt Schilling's an example that we just mentioned. Like, if you perform on the field and you have the numbers, the longevity, the career milestones, like all those, like, you should get in. It shouldn't matter that you are not liked personally by the guys that are voting, but it matters way too much now. Like, it does. Way too much.
And let's be honest, as much as they have shunned these steroid guys, steroids saved baseball.
And I
you know, like, listen, I love baseball. I'm a purist as well, but like, without McGuire and Sosa having that home run chase in '98, like, that put a new shot of energy back into baseball that, frankly, really hasn't been seen since. And, you know, I mean, like, it's crazy. I mean, Barry Bonds was honestly probably a Hall of Famer before he took steroids. He was a 40-40 guy for crying out loud.
Yeah, that's the sad part about Bonds.
And he won Gold Gloves. Yeah. Like, he wasn't just the offensive there. He was defensively a Gold Glove outfielder too.
Barry Bonds was on the same trajectory as his godfather there, Willie Mays. He was going to go down the same path. His career numbers would have been pretty close. You know, I think the steroids were more greed. He wanted to be the guy. He wanted to be at the top. That was all ego driving him to push himself even farther. But I look at it this way. I look at it as did Pete Rose's actions of gambling on baseball change the outcome of the games? No. Was it stupid? Yes. Should he have just apologized and moved on? Probably, but he's a stubborn guy and a proud man, and he wouldn't do that. But ultimately, he didn't harm baseball. Baseball made an example out of him to try to prove to the league why they don't want you to do that. So, you know, he got caught. He got, you know, basically hung before he really got tried. And I think that he's a guy that should be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, I actually look at what Alex Cora and AJ Hinch did is far worse. They altered outcomes of games by outright blatantly cheating. I actually don't think Alex Cora should be in baseball today. And I'm a Red Sox fan. I hate the fact he walks around a major league dugout right now, because I think the man should have been banned forever. I think Hinch should have been banned forever because they outright cheated and altered the outcome of games. There are players whose careers were impacted. There are records that were impacted. There are championships that were impacted by what they did. To me, that is by far the most heinous crime you can commit against baseball. The steroid guys, you could argue, you know, steroids helped you hit the ball farther and recover faster, but you still had to hit the damn thing. And when it's coming in at 100 miles an hour and twisting and turning, that's still a challenge. But arguably,
and the pitchers were on it too. It wasn't just the hitters. The pitchers were on it too. Like,
absolutely.
I mean,
and that's my ultimate thing with these guys. It's like the Barry Bonds, the A-Rods, like in their prime when they were using these steroids, like who know, like most of the pitchers that they were facing were taking the same stuff.
Well,
so at the
Andy
end of the day,
on HGH.
Right. So at the end of the day, like if everybody has superpowers, then nobody really has superpowers because everyone's on the same level. So it doesn't really matter. Like, and again, Harrison, I couldn't agree more. You still got to hit the damn thing. Like you still got to be able to hit the ball.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's ultimately what these guys were really, really goddamn good at, was hitting a baseball. And the steroids don't make that any better.
No, I mean, it turns a warning track fly ball into a third row home run, but it does ultimately, you still got to hit the damn thing far enough where that's even a possibility. So I look at it as, in the steroid era, you've either got to go all or nothing. You either have to let all the guys in or none of them in. But you can't do this piecemeal thing. So and baseball's got to make a decision if they're going to acknowledge that or not. Well, I've always been of the opinion, keep the steroid guys out until they actually figure out what they're going to do and how they're going to treat it. But really, other than that Mitchell report, which we all know was baseball trying to save themselves, which was really inconclusive in the end, I don't know that we've got proof who did and who didn't. So how do we make that call?
There's possibly already 2 steroid guys that I can think of off the top of my head already in the hall.
Oh, right. For sure.
Jeff Bagwell and Ivan Rodriguez, like, I love them both, but I mean, that's I don't know.
Yeah, baseball's got a problem.
It comes back to the popularity. It comes back to the fact that we, the writers, want to go ahead and look at a guy like Curt Schilling, a guy like A-Rod. They want to look at a guy like, David Ortiz, I wouldn't say is not likable. But, they kind of have that cloud hanging over them, right? Like those are the guys that were on the Mitchell report. Those are the guys. And it's like, well, we just don't like that they were on that report. And we think they tarnished the name of baseball. We don't like, but it's like Jeff Bagwell was a super likable guy. Ivan Rodriguez, I don't know. Everyone loved that guy. Everyone loved that guy. Right. So it's like, oh, well, yeah, maybe him, but like, we're going to give them a pass because they're super likable. And it's like, well, what are we really doing here? Now it's just a bunch of old white guys voting on who gets in the hall rather than like, do you belong in there? And that's my problem.
Yeah, baseball in typical MLB fashion, they were slow to react. They kind of haphazardly threw together this investigation to try to draw some conclusion. They got a bunch of information. They did absolutely nothing with it. And now they're all sitting back going, well, what do we do? Well, in typical MLB fashion, you never actually close the door on the issue. So how do you sit here and say, Barry Bonds, you don't belong? You're the all-time home run leader, but you don't belong because we think you might have done steroids based on some things we thought we knew. But we never proved anything. Nothing was conclusive. The Mitchell report was nothing more than baseball trying to prove they were taking a stance because they had the government breathing down their neck that they had, they had issues. So it's
and Jose Canseco put it in a book. So
because he's the most reliable source there is, right?
Oh no, without a doubt. Yeah, you got to Jose Canseco put it in there, and he's got no reason to lie. To lie.
No. I mean, he's clearly the most transparent guy out there.
And stable, very stable.
The one picture I have is
take
like
it to the bank.
all of them lined up at Congress. McGuire, Sosa, Palmeiro, and I have not taken anabolic steroids.
Palmeiro, that was bad.
They probably didn't. They probably took HGH or what was the other stuff they were using? They were using it wasn't called steroids. I can't remember what.
The cream and the clear from Balco.
Maybe that's what it was. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, they had HGH. They had, you name it. They had all of it. The human growth hormone. These guys were injecting anything in their body they thought was going to give them an upper hand, and I don't even know that anybody knows what they took.
Yeah. So our consensus is: we letting them in, or are we not?
Yeah, for sure. If they belong, I'm not just saying you get in because of steroids, but if like Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, fuck yeah, those two guys, dude, those elite. 2 guys were elite, elite, baseball players.
Yeah, it's hard to argue. I think, like Ed says, David Ortiz is so likable, he'll get it. I think based on the postseason record and the fact that David Ortiz might have been the least clearly linked to it, I think he gets in. But
Oh,
I
I
do
do
think
too.
him
Like,
being, but I do think him being likable helps a lot because
oh,
the
and
media
that's what-
hated
exact-
Bonds.
That's exactly what I said. I said Ortiz is not a good example because everyone
No.
loves Ortiz. So like I
Yeah.
do think Ortiz is the guy that's going to
Yeah,
get in.
you're
But
totally right.
but I absolutely think the other guys, the reason why they're not in yet is just because they're not liked. They're not popular.
No, and I think that's effectively that's the writers holding the steroid era against them. It's their own way of doing it.
Oh, of course it is.
Which again gets to the fact that geez, all these writers, they're just so unbiased. They just report what goes on in baseball. There's absolutely no truth to that. These guys they'll have their own agendas, and they all feel like they're the keepers of baseball.
And don't worry, these guys are writers that absolutely never, not once, cut corners to make a deadline
Never.
or get things. Never, not once would they cut corners. Never.
No.
And I have no proof of it, right? But just like they have no proof that these guys actually took steroids, but that's going to hold them out of the Hall of Fame. It's the whole thing's fucking stupid.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
I mean, and it goes back to the original argument we had is like they should only be letting in the elite of the elite, the 1% of the 1%. Like they shouldn't just be letting everybody in because they played 20 seasons and batted a 270 with 1,500 hits. Like that's not Hall of Fame worthy.
Major ricochet shot at Craig Biggio.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Wow.
I would rather be sitting here having a conversation about how XYZ player got fucked and should be in there rather than talking about a guy like Larry Walker who shouldn't be in. Like I'm an ultimate small hall guy in any sport.
Yeah.
Like if it's 2 to 3%, give me the 2%. Like that's just in any sport. But baseball
I agree.
Particularly, just go ahead.
Well, no, you nailed it earlier talking about the fact that it's become a museum. There should be the Hall of Fame and then the Hall of Fame museum. The museum can capture all the moments and all the cool stuff.
Yes.
But just because you're in the museum doesn't mean you should have to be in the hall. Like there absolutely should. The hall should be very small, very elite, to your point. And then the museum can include all the different names and faces you want to remember, but they don't have to be in the hall. That hall should be, you should walk in there and it should just be all the players that really did. They changed the game, that the players that you remember for years and years, that made your childhood, not the guys that just put up some decent stats for a few years and get a shot.
You walk into the Hall of Fame and it would take you a full week to read everyone's plaques. Like,
oh hell yeah!
I mean, right. That's what I mean. Like, I get that baseball has a rich history, and but like, there's probably guys in there that I wouldn't even like. They don't belong. But
probably.
It all starts with. I mean, how big is that ballot? Like, it doesn't even need to year in and year out. It's always that big. Like, it doesn't even. You're telling guys to like, hey, just this guy's close enough. We'll let him in. Like that's what you're telling people by having a ballot that big. Right. It should be a third of that size.
Yeah, you can trim the fat off that easy. There's 10 names I could easily cross off that list. Like, I mean, Prince Fielder gone, Carl Crawford gone. Yeah, Tim Lincecum gone, Justin Morneau gone,
Jake Peavy
gone. Brzezinski gone.
AJ Brzezinski, Jesus.
Yeah.
Why? Because he won one World Series for Chicago?
He was most famous for just pissing people off.
Goodness.
If you told me that I had to come up with one adjective for Brzezinski, it would literally be like fine. Like he was fine.
He was
serviceable.
He was irritating.
He was not a Hall of Fame catcher.
So
he was a fine baseball player.
So here you go. Here's a stat line: 1,931 career hits, 998 runs scored, 136 home runs, 766 RBIs, 480 stolen bases.
Carl Crawford.
That's Carl Crawford, which screams he was a pretty good major leaguer. Yeah, he was fine.
He was pretty good. It's pretty good.
He probably was never even the best player on his own team, but he's on the Hall of Fame ballot. Like, wow.
Yeah, dude, it's insane. I mean, the whole thing needs to be fixed. But it never. We're too late. We're too late into the game. I mean, this is how it's always going to be, and it's frustrating.
The system's broken, and they're just scraping to put names on a ballot.
Yep. You played a half a year for service time. Okay, Hall of Fame ballot.
Right. Yeah. Nick Arno, you're wearing a San Diego Padres hat, Hall of Fame ballot.
But it's almost honestly like it's almost like when players come into the league, we start them on the Hall of Fame status, and then they have to play their way out of it rather than like starting down here and play your way in. Like it's
Right.
almost like how it gets like that.
Yeah, you don't qualify for the Hall of Fame. You have to
You
get
just
disqualified from it.
right?
Right.
Exactly. Exactly. It's that seems to be how it is.
It's embarrassing to see some of those names and think that somebody might actually.
I need to know the logic behind AJ Pierzynski being on that ballot.
Yeah.
Dude,
like I need to know.
There's 10 names on there that I don't get the logic
of all the names, dude.
No.
That one sticks out for me the most. I don't know why it does, but it does.
It's bad. It's bad.
It's astonishing. Absolutely astonishing.
Yeah.
Awful.
I mean, and Pete Rose needs to go in. The best hitter ever. 4,256 career hits. I mean, come on.
That's like the NFL telling Tom Brady he's not going to get in because they don't like something he did off the field. Like, could you imagine? I mean, that's the biggest mistake baseball's ever made, is not letting that man in. And I get he's been loud, obnoxious, and you hate the fact he's still around. He won't let you get over it. But my God, I hope some baseball commissioner grows a set and goes, "Look, Pete, we've done you wrong. Let's get you in." But nobody will ever do it.
Yeah. How do you ban him for life and then do what you said and not ban Cora and Hinch?
Right. The only way Pete Rose gets in is posthumously, because no commissioner is going to be the one that has to face him face to face, because he's going to make a scene. Like when he finally does, like if he's alive when he gets in, he's going to call it. He's going to make a fucking scene. So the only way he gets in is after he's dead. That's the only way.
Yep. Yeah. Right.
Which is embarrassing. It's embarrassing for baseball to treat him that way. It's embarrassing for baseball to not have the ability to walk back a mistake. Like,
I agree.
There has to be a commissioner at some point in time who will have a set, who will say, "This is wrong. Let's fix it."
But can you just imagine Pete Rose at that Hall of Fame podium in July?
That's what I'm saying.
Dude, there's no way they would allow that. You're right.
They'll never do it.
No,
they won't. Never do it. But that is his own fault. Like
exactly.
I 100% agree.
And I think he belongs in there. But the fact that at this point they'll never do it is just because he's just become an obnoxious pain in the ass. Like it's not worth the negative publicity that we're going to get. We'll just wait till he's dead.
He's got every right to be pissed, but he's been vocally pissed for a long time.
Absolutely.
And he is going to want to serve them the biggest plate of crow when he gets on that podium, and nobody's going to want to be there for it. So I agree. He's made it too hard for them to walk it back, but I would love to see baseball just right there.
And
same with Joe Jackson.
I can see both sides. Like he has every right to be pissed, but I can see them being like, dude, let's just wait 4 more years until this guy's dead. Yeah. Why do it now?
Yeah, Ed makes another great point. His lack of humility is why he'll
totally right.
Yeah,
1,000%.
100%.
1,000%.
Absolutely.
If Pete would just take a little responsibility and say, "Look, I'm sorry for what I did. Let's both be sorry. Let's do this," but he'll never do it.
No.
But
he belongs. Steroid guys belong, and that's that.
I agree.
Moving on. Okay, 7th inning stretch. Last week we started ranking our MLB organizations. We started with 30, went to 26. Now we're doing our 25 through 21.
Now, I just want to ask before we get started, Nick. I'm afraid that some of these teams may hurt you.
Okay.
Because last week a couple of my teams, like, you were visibly in pain.
I watched it back and I was like, wow, I overreacted bad. But
I thought you were gonna have a straight up stroke when he said Cincinnati Reds. I was like, Nick's having a stroke.
Oh God.
So I'll probably hear the Yankees, Red Sox, and Cardinals this week.
No, I think these teams you might be able to handle. There are a couple that have been around a while that you may struggle with. So
all right, number 25. Let's go. You started off, Harrison. Give it to
all
me.
right, I got the Orioles. They've been trash for so long, and I don't think that organization has any real future if they don't change up ownership and all of it, everything. Blow it up.
Yeah.
Great ballpark and great market. They just
beautiful ballpark.
Garbage.
Yeah.
Sean, 25 for you.
Texas Rangers. Texas Rangers. Is that who you had?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I had Texas Rangers, and it's one of those, and I was not even historical part of it, although kind of the historical part of it. Like, I know they went to a couple. They never won one. Like, it's not like they were. It's not like they were like the Rockies who came in like 98 or 93, or the Diamondbacks came in 98 or anything like that. Like, they've been around since what, 61? Isn't that right? 61,
Yeah, and
62,
then
60.
they were the Senators too at
That's
some
right.
point there. Too.
That's what it was. Yeah. So it's like, I mean, you guys have had, and they've just, and not that I want them to fall off the face of the earth, but they're another one of those teams. Like, if I woke tomorrow and there was no Texas Rangers, I'd be like, whatever. Like, I don't.
Right. That makes 3.
That's 3 teams for me.
We're trimming the fat off this league in a hurry.
Yeah.
All right.
So it's going to be like a 24 team league in no time.
We're
Dude, it's
down
like the Hall of Fame.
the AL
The smaller the
East.
better.
All right.
You just give me
We're
like the
down.
elite teams and just let me watch those.
Yeah, 25. I got Texas Rangers 2, 4,524 career wins. Nolan Ryan and Ivan Rodriguez are the only 2 Hall of Famers, and Nolan Ryan could have picked 3 other teams to be a Hall of Famer. He could have picked the Mets.
I know.
He could have,
but probably should have
picked the Mets.
No. Over anyone else other than the Rangers. I'm saying there's like 2 or 3 other teams he probably should have picked over the Rangers.
Angels, Astros, Mets, and Rangers.
That's what I would have picked. I would have picked, if I was him, I would have picked not if I was him, but I'm saying like if I had to pick for him, I would have picked him to go in as an Angel.
Yeah. He had like 2 or 3 no-hitters with them, I think.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah. He had 2 stints with the Astros, I'm pretty sure. But, yeah, whatever. Like Sean said, they've gone to 2 World Series, lost both, and have only been to the playoffs 8 times
I know,
in
it's
their
amazing.
franchise history. It's pretty bad. Okay, 24. Sean, start.
24, I believe I had the Detroit Tigers at 24. That's mainly for the recent the recent history, that we've grown up with the Tigers. I mean, they've had good teams at times, but it's just been too sporadic. And like we had talked about when I had Kansas City at 29. Yeah, Kansas City at 29. That American League Central's there for the taking. And year after year, I mean, that's a division that it shouldn't take you 6 years, 7 years to get into a spot to win that division. It just shouldn't. Right. And especially if you have an ownership where like we're going to be committed to winning this division, it's 2 years. It's 2 years. You get yourself a good manager. And Detroit, if I looking through it, like, and I'm not totally currently up to date with all the farm systems, but like they got some pretty good young talent in that organization. And they've had some pretty good young talent come through in the past handful of years. No. Mm-hmm. I mean, not great. It's not top of the league, but right. They're not awful. They've had some young, talented players come up.
That's why I was so shocked that Minnesota just decided to blow the whole team up, like get rid of Barrios and ship everybody out, because you said like the Central's wide open. I mean, right now the White Sox are running away with it by default because everybody else is terrible. Like, yeah.
Dude, and you know what's funny? Just on a quick little side note, as wide open as the American League Central is, over the past few years, we've had some really good managers in that division. Like that's, you get Tito in Cleveland, La Russa now in Chicago, and then Gardenhire in Minnesota for so many years.
Is it Yost with Kansas City?
Is that who's there now?
No,
Yost was in Kansas City. Yep. Yeah. Brad Osmus was in Detroit before they went and got AJ Hinch. I mean,
Jim Leland was there for a while.
Jim Leland was there when they were good, though.
Right.
Like that was
whatever. Now we're just.
But I'm just saying, like Jim Leland there, like that's not like you could have looked at that team like, oh, I mean that was Dave Dombrowski at GM. Leland was a man. Like that was a good club. But they didn't do that enough. Like that should have been the Tigers every year for 12 years.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you had Miggy, you had Prince Fielder, you had
Verlander,
you had
Scherzer.
But I'm just talking middle of the lineup. But yes, those guys on the mound. But I'm just talking like you had guys in the middle of the lineup that you should have been able to piece together and piece around 6 more guys to get a lineup, and then you have those guys in the mound, in the starting rotation on the hill, and then really good manager and a guy like Jim Leland. Brad Osmus, I thought, was underrated for his managerial abilities. Yep. Mm-hmm. Like that should have been 10, 12, 13 years of the Detroit Tigers being like, all right, we're winning the division and we're going to give us a chance.
Victor Martinez was in that lineup.
Yep.
Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
Maglio Ordonez, I think, was in there.
Yeah, but he was that wasn't that a little bit.
It was towards the tail end of his. Yeah. But
you had Granderson. Yeah, I mean, you had a lot of people roll through there that they really should have had a long run of success, and they just could not put it together and keep it together.
Yeah. Okay, 24 for you, Harrison.
I had the Rockies. It kind of goes without saying. It's another organization that, granted, expansion team haven't been around very long, but they, other than having they got a cool ballpark. Denver is a great city. It's a pretty good fan base. It's another team that's just kind of unremarkable on the balance of what they've done.
Yeah, I agree with that.
My 24th is the D-backs of Arizona. 1,790 wins career. Randy Johnson's the only Hall of Famer. Probably should have gone in as a Mariner, but that's a different discussion.
I know. I still don't get that, but
they are 1-for-1 in World Series, but only 6 playoff appearances. But they're my 24th.
Good. All right, those are all the 24s, right?
Yep. So 23, I'll start, I guess. Miami Marlins I have for 23, or Florida Marlins, whatever. 2,000 wins, no Hall of Famers. 2 for 2 in World Series, and only 3 playoff appearances. This is the epitome of buying a championship. I don't think there's any other team in professional sports that I can think of that literally buys championships 7 years apart. So the Marlins are probably due at this point, right? Oh, they're way overdue.
Yeah. And who was the owner of the team when they bought those championships?
I don't know.
John Henry.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
Your Red Sox
really?
owner. Yeah.
When they won both?
I'm pretty sure he was the owner for both of them. And he blew it. Then he blew it up and sold them and came to Boston.
Because I know Jim Leland was the manager of the first one.
Yeah.
Yeah, 97 and 2003.
Yep. Yeah.
So shout out to the M&M podcast. They did an episode where they faced the 97 Marlins against the 03 Marlins. And they debated on who would win, dude. And that was an awesome episode to listen to.
Those were loaded lineups.
Both of them were.
Yeah,
and the pitching staffs were good too. But
you had Beckett in 03, who was at his peak.
Yeah. But you had Kevin Brown in 97. And he was like filthy. There's Ugath Urbina,
Oh yeah.
In prison now. But I mean, they're okay. Yeah, they're number 23. So
they're also my number 23 for the same reason. Two championships.
Perfect.
They bought them. They got a beautiful ballpark. Bad market. I love Derek Jeter, but good luck down there. They'll continue to just exist and suck up revenue sharing money.
All right. Well, good talk on that one. 22. I got the Royals at 22. 4,000 wins. George Brett's only Hall of Famer. 2 for 4 in World Series. Only 9 playoff appearances in the franchise.
Wow, it is amazing to think it's only 9 playoff appearances. That's sad.
Yeah, it is.
It's just sad.
And 4 of them were in the last 8 years.
I know.
Right. That's the crazier part.
Oh,
that's a great
amazing.
Part. I had 22. I had the Angels. I think. Again, recent history, you think about the Angels, and it's just that Mike Soto, was it 2002 when they beat San Francisco?
Mm-hmm.
That was a good team. Mike Soto, I think, was a good manager. He was there for a while. But, the Angels were never really anything spectacular. I mean, they're out west, and they don't get a lot of, love on the major markets, especially out here. We don't see them on TV very much. But, I mean, Nick, I don't know if you have it right on you because I don't know if you had the Angels already. But, I mean, recently, how many playoff appearances have they had in the past 20 years?
They've only 10 playoff appearances
in their franchise history.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's just – and I can probably count on one shop teacher's hand recently the amount of times they've been in the postseason.
On a shop teacher's hand recently.
Yeah. You like that?
We all had that shop teacher.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, you're missing a few fingers there. I mean, it's just and it's their inability to surround their good players with decent players. And it's I mean, we talked about it earlier today, but it's like Mike Trout and Shohei, the most recent example. You got a really good player, like a generational talent. We already know Mike Trout's going into the Hall of Fame. And if he doesn't, then it's that's a disaster.
He's actually on this year's ballot.
Yeah,
he might as well be.
He belongs there. All
100%.
And you just can't give him enough talent to get into the postseason. It's
Yeah,
just,
brutal.
it's embarrassing as a franchise.
Yeah.
His career numbers are probably already better than Carl Crawford, so might as well put him on now.
Seriously.
Goodness.
Oh God! All right, so 22 for me. I had the Rays. I mean, that is the team that does the most with the least, but it's a terrible market, terrible ballpark. It's nothing more than a feeder pool to the rest of the league. They do extract some of the talent before they go anywhere, but that's a team that is always just like one young bust away from being in the basement again. And at some point, their streak of luck in these high draft picks is going to eventually fade on them because they've gotten more out of that farm system than they ever should have.
Yeah.
Probably, but maybe it's just. I mean, you're always going to be there. To me, it's a little bit. It goes a little bit beyond luck. Like they have a front office and they have a player development and a talent scout department that is able to identify talent, and they do it very well. They identify young talent very well. They develop those guys to a point where they can then contribute at the major league level. Like at a certain point, like you just have to tip your cap to the organization.
Oh, yeah.
They know really how to identify talent. They just do because they hit at a higher rate. That's got to be at a higher rate than any other organization, at least in recent.
I can't
12,
think of
15
another
years.
organization that is more consistent with doing that than it's not even close. Number 2 is not even close.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's not even like they hit on pitchers. Like they hit on everything. They hit on starting pitching. They hit on infield. Like they hit on, Wander Franco, for example. Like they hit on all these guys. They hit on Longoria. They hit on Carl Crawford. I know we shitting on Carl Crawford, but Carl Crawford was a good player for them.
His good years were in Tampa.
That's right.
Absolutely.
For sure.
And you just go down the list of the pitchers. I mean, all the way back to Scott Kazmir, David Price. I mean, this is just, they just hit on their ability to just identify and produce young talent. So it's not luck at this point, right?
No, but what'll be interesting with the Rays is now that Friedman is gone and Chaim Bloom are gone, and it's a whole new front office. What does it look like in 3 years? Like, have they?
Agreed.
Was it the process? Was it the system? Was it the people? I mean, Friedman went to L.A., spent like a drunken sailor, and has won once.
Right. Once.
Chaim Bloom came to Boston in his first year, assembled a piecemeal roster that damn near went to the World Series. You could argue that Chaim Bloom is showing some of that Tampa magic that Friedman really hasn't. Friedman's actually gone way the other direction. But I'll be curious in a few years if Tampa still has the same success. Is it the development program, or did they have a couple of really smart guys in the front office that were able to strike gold? It'll be fun to watch.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, 21, Sean.
Seattle.
One of the week.
Seattle. I know Seattle doesn't have a great history. They've only been around since 93, 90. What year did they come in with us?
Before that.
Oh, it was?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, it definitely was. Of course it was, Sean. Of course it was.
So Milwaukee was.
They were in the 70s.
They were the Seattle Pilots for a while.
77.
Yeah,
and then they moved
that was dumb.
to the Seattle Pilots moved to Milwaukee, and then they came in.
We're allowed.
Yeah, we'll edit that out. That was dumb. But Seattle, I don't think.
Yeah.
I look at them as this is 6, 7, 8 years in a row. We're like going into a season. I'm like, oh, like Seattle's got those 1 or 2 young guys that if they can get it going, like watch out for Seattle, watch out for Seattle, watch out for Seattle. And I know they damn near almost pulled it off this year, getting into the postseason. I have them probably when we said we were going to do this as part of the show, before I really gave it too much thought, I didn't think I'd have them as high as 21, but I couldn't think of a team lower that like deserved to be higher, if that makes any sense. So it's almost like I have them at 21 by default. Like, I don't think they're a great franchise. Like, I think they've probably squandered the little bit of opportunity that they had. I mean, we talked about it last. Like, they had 110 wins or 111, 109, whatever it was that year.
116, right? Wasn't it 116?
Was it that high?
Yeah, it was insanity.
Holy moly, 116.
So Stacy, one of the girls that watches, is a huge Mariners fan, and she corrected us like real bad.
She sure did.
Like, I have a video that's sweet 116, and do you want to borrow it? And I was like, all right.
But all I can say is
Stacey,
Stacy pretty much put you in your place, Nick, and agreed with me. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she didn't like where I ranked them 30th, but
no, she did not.
Sorry.
No, because I mean, listen, I think we also have to take into consideration when you talk about Seattle. I don't think anyone's ever looked at the Seattle Mariners and being like, oh, like that's a team that's like willing to shell out all the money. Like they really have to do what Oakland does. Like they have a very short cap as far as what their payroll is, and they have to do what they do with very little money, and they're going up against, in this case, the past few years, Houston's in that division now, so it's Houston. It's not great. Other than Houston, it's really the Texas Rangers and the Angels is really what you're going against. So that's not crazy, but in the ability, you're fighting against the rest of. You're not winning the division, so you're fighting against the rest of the league for wild cards. I mean, it's tough what they're expected to do.
Yeah.
But I like them. I think they still have young. I mean, this J.P. Crawford kid is an animal. Like
Kyle Lewis.
They have some young, talented players. Like I still think highly of them. But we'll see in another couple of years what comes of them. But I like Seattle.
I feel like Seattle's that team that is like perpetually one player away. Like you look at that roster, like there's always like that. There's always like that one spot they've got a massive hole in, or they're missing that one difference maker that makes that whole team jive. Because they have been like consistently okay, but like they've never until this year really they've had a long stretch of struggling to really make that leap. But it's like there's always that one piece that's missing.
I do feel bad for Mariners fans because I'll say like they don't have that payroll that like they're not that team that goes on shells out a ton of money. Except they did that one time for Robinson Cano, and like that couldn't have backfired any quicker or any worse for them, So then it's like, now I'm sure like they all just have this like PTSD. It's like just don't give a lot of money to these guys. Like this is crazy. Like that couldn't have worked out any worse.
No, that was bad.
That
was bad. I mean, their final 2021 payroll was $87 million, so they're kind of right in the middle of the pack.
Higher than I would have expected, if we're being honest.
I mean, so we're kind of right in the middle of the pack, nothing crazy or lavish, but, you can't afford, when you only spend $87 million, you can't afford to sign, Carlos Correa to a $30 million deal. You're disqualified from those sort of players right out of the gate.
Yeah. That was your 21, right?
Yes.
For my 21, I got the Houston Astros. So 4,635 wins, Bagwell and Biggio, only 2 Hall of Famers. They've been to the playoffs 15 times, but have only reached the World Series 4 times and have lost 3 of them. They've only won once. So that's why I have them ranked at 21.
Yep, makes sense. I got the Brewers at 21. Some good history there. Nice organization, great ballpark, good market, but another team that really just kind of exists. They've had a good run the last few years, but again, they're that team that they're always missing a piece. Like they're always,
right.
Or they, like Yelich, who's had all kinds of injury trouble since he blew up, and like they've just never been able to string it all together. And I've always loved the Brewers, back in the Yount and Molitor days, and I've always loved that team, but I don't know that we're going to see them consistently at the top. I think you're going to see a few years, then they're going to fall off and come back and fall off, and there's not a perennial contender.
Yeah, they can't get over that hump.
They're just stuck.
And they just can't. Yeah.
Yeah, they're at the dance. They just can't get on the floor.
Right. All right. So we'll get into the top 20 next week, and we will move on to rounding third, where we threw out our question of the week, the top 3 baseball movies of all time. We got a lot of answers for this one. This one was really fun to watch, and I was like, even my mom chimed in and gave me the top 3 baseball movies. Like, love it. Like, just it was great.
Can we just real quick before we get into this? I had a little delay brain here. It just hit me. So Harrison said Christian Yelich, right? Christian Yelich, when he went to Milwaukee, struggled to stay healthy, but then he blew up. Could we talk about? Do you guys remember what the 2017 starting outfield for the Miami Marlins was?
It was gross. It was Stanton, Yelich, and don't tell me.
I can't remember who the third one was.
Oh my gosh.
Marcell Ozuna.
Oh,
that starting outfield in 2017.
That whole team was nasty. They had JT Realmuto behind the dish.
Behind the plate. Yep.
They had Justin Bohr at first, D. Gordon at second, had Denny Echeverria at short. If Jose Fernandez on the mound,
but they were a good team. What's up?
And Jose Fernandez. Everybody forgets about him.
Yep.
I mean, taken too soon, but man, like goodness. Oh my god, dude, that guy was legit, dude. He was
Unreal.
Dude, their
lights
backup catcher was AJ Ellis.
Yeah, yeah. And they just shipped everybody out. They just shipped them out.
Unload as usual. They built it up and tore it down. Built it up and tore it. That's been Miami's MO forever.
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. It hit me real quick. I'm like, wait a second. He just said that. Yeah.
No,
That was
I'm
20,
glad.
that was a
I'm glad you
2017
mentioned
thing.
that because that team was
Disgusting.
loaded, and they're all every single player on that roster is gone. 4 years later.
Yeah. And who
All right,
knows
sorry.
if Azuma's
Top 3
coming
baseball
back,
movies.
though.
Sorry, boys.
Okay, it's all good. I love it. All right. Yep. Top 3 baseball movies, like I said, had a lot of responses to this. We put everybody's name on a list here with their top 3. So here they are posted. We got Sandlot was definitely a lot. Field of Dreams.
We got a lot more League of Their Own, which I'm not complaining. I love that movie, but more than I expected.
It's so good. Yeah, it's so good.
Oh, very,
man.
very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
We got a lot of Moneyball, a lot of Sandlot, a lot of League of Their Own.
Major League, obviously.
Yeah, we saw very little of The Rookie. We saw one for Mr. Baseball, which I actually thought was great because that is a good movie. It's an underrated movie.
Hardball is like I love Hardball, like R.I.P.G. baby. But Hardball is up there for me. I loved it. I watch that movie all the time.
Only got a couple of Bull Durhams. I thought we'd see a lot more of that, but it was all in all, it was a really good sampling of the movies that are out there, and there's definitely a few that jump out.
Of all the sports, I mean, baseball's got to have like the best collection of like sports movies, right? Like
football's up there, man. Football,
but doesn't have it doesn't have the great list. Like football has some great ones.
That's true.
Like it doesn't have like the breadth, or I don't know what the right word would be, but it doesn't have like the full list. Like there are a ton of really, really good baseball movies out there.
Bench warmers. I said to Harrison earlier. Bench warmers. I love bench warmers. It's way up there.
So do I.
Steve Pierce sent that one in. That one's so good. I love it.
That's a good one.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fat guy touchdown. Sorry, boys. There's a fat guy touchdown in Monday Night Football. Sorry about that.
Fat guy touchdown.
There it is. Yeah.
Oh.
All right. So let's go with who wants to do their top 3 first.
You can go ahead, Nick.
Yeah.
Oh,
so you started off, Nick.
No.
Go, Nick.
All right. So I got A League of Their Own is on there. And then I got Rookie of the Year. Just the names that the manager shouts out at him, like Godin Hosa, Rosenbaga, Radamucka, like Bravi Buza. Like just so good.
So good.
And I kind of cheated on this last one. It is not a movie. It is an HBO series, Eastbound and Down. Kenny Powers, La Flama Blanca. Dude, Eastbound and Down is so good.
It's so funny.
It is so funny.
La Flama Blanca, baby. Like,
it is so funny.
Like, yeah, so those are my top 3.
Oh,
man. All right, go, Sean.
All right. My number 1 is Little Big League. Little Big League, it might be my favorite sports movie, not just my favorite baseball movie. I think that movie is awesome. Lou Collins is like, when I was like a kid and I was like, I want to grow up to be Lou Collins. I thought Lou Collins was like the coolest guy ever. So I love Little Big League. Rookie of the Year is another one.
Hold on. Back to Little Big League. I think that's one of the only baseball movies that has cameos of actual MLB players in it too. There's cameos for Griffey's in there.
Well, yeah.
Oh yeah, right.
The ending
Randy
scene,
Johnson.
The ending scene is Lou Collins hits one. Mm-hmm. It looks like it's gonna go out, and guess who robs the home run?
Lou Pinella's in it too. A little cameo by Lou Pinella.
Yeah,
I love Sweet Lou.
Oh, I love Sweet Lou.
So
I absolutely love that guy. Rookie of the Year is my number 2. That was mine and my twin brother Pat and I would watch that movie over and over and over again when we were little. Like we would the tape got like worn out. We would watch Rookie of the Year so much. Like that's totally up there for me. Major League is my 3rd, but like I could have 3A, 3B, 3C. 3B.
You're right. It could go forever.
There's so many out there.
Yeah.
Major League, and to me, it's like the scene when he comes out of the pen and the whole place is going crazy for Wild Thing is. I get goosebumps. It is an absolutely unreal scene. Like I absolutely love that movie and I love that scene. So those are my top 3.
Those are good. All right. So my top 3, number 1 for me is Sandlot because that was my childhood. We had
classic.
Yeah, we had a ratty little baseball field in our neighborhood that we played on. If you hit a ball, to the left or to the right, a little bit foul, it was off of somebody's porch, and we'd hit a ball and run like hell sometimes if you fouled one off. And so that was my childhood, was the Sandlot. Number 2 is Major League. I could watch that movie forever. I just love it. And then I had a tough time on number 3. My final choice on number 3 was For Love of the Game.
Awesome
that's such a great movie. But
awesome flick.
But I struggled with my third choice was Almost, and I'm surprised it's not on this list anywhere. Was Angels in the Outfield.
Oh
yeah, that's a good
one. About that one too.
I used to love that movie, and I'm actually shocked nobody had it. But that was
young Matthew McConaughey. Yeah.
Yep.
That's a good movie.
That's a classic.
That's a really good one.
Matthew McConaughey's in that movie?
Yeah, he's a center fielder. He's the guy that gets carried by angels diving for the ball.
You're right.
Get out of here.
No,
I know I'm right.
I'm going to go back and watch it now.
You absolutely should.
It's young McConaughey.
It is.
It's got to be on Disney Plus. All right.
It's not.
I got homework tonight.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's a disaster, but it's not.
No, that's such a good movie. I remember as a kid watching it like over and over and over again. So.
Oh, awesome. I love when they got who's the guy, David? He's supposed to take care of him, and he's like, "Get me a cup of coffee."
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, "How do you take it? In cups."
Yeah, in cups.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt too. And he was like
in cups.
8.
So good.
Goodness. Here's another good one from Doug. Trouble with the Curve.
Trouble with the Curve. Yeah. Also.
That is another one that I completely forgot about.
Very, very good movie.
Yeah,
I forgot about that one too. Very good movie.
Man.
What was the one with the cricket players? They went over and scouted the cricket players.
Oh God, I forget now.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
It was pretty decent.
One movie I really liked was Fever Pitch. That was another good one with the Sox. Kind of a.
I have such a hard time with Jimmy Fallon, but it was fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's so many you can choose. Like, it's hard to narrow them down.
I think you're absolutely right. 20. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, though. I think baseball probably has the best selection of movies of any sport. Not even close.
Right? Yeah, it's not close.
Not even close. Yeah. But it was awesome to get all those answers and see all the variations and choices.
Yeah, for sure. Really cool. For sure.
All right. We are going to start heading home now. So a hot stove, and when we had the interview with David a couple weeks ago, he thought he saw a report on the Oakland A's finalizing a stadium deal to stay in Oakland. However, there's news this week that the Oakland A's put in a bid for land in Las Vegas.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is that? Is that Oakland, like Harrison and I kind of discussed a little bit, is that Oakland trying to drive the price down, or is it legit? Is it a legit move?
Yeah, the A's have had such a bad relationship with Oakland for so long. That stadium's a mess. They don't want to spend any money on it. I honestly think Oakland is almost challenging the Athletics, to go find a better offer. I think this is the Athletics trying to pull a power move to say, okay, we will. Now what?
Right.
I'll be curious how the standoff ends. I don't see them moving, but I do think it's an interesting move for them.
And I don't know what the baseball, I know in football, when Oakland, when the Raiders moved to Vegas, and then when the Chargers and the Rams moved back to LA, they have to go through this process where it gets approved by a majority of the ownership. I assume baseball is the same way, but I don't know. So you have to, if you're going to go buy that plot of land in Vegas to build your new stadium, you got to be pretty damn confident that move is going to get approved. Right.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that this bit's at the initial step now is just a bit of a okay bet kind of move, right? Oh yeah, okay, fine. You don't want to build us, then we'll go find our own place to build. I don't see them leaving Harrison. I'm with you. I see them staying in Oakland, but I hope they get a new stadium.
It's so bad.
The stadium itself is terrible, but I've never been out there. But from what I hear, awesome fan base, diehard fan. They love their sports out there. They deserve a nice place to go watch their team, who, by the way, is not a great team, but they're in there. They're in it. They play meaningful games in August almost every year. A lot of times they're not getting in, but that's a tough division for them. And they're battling it out and playing meaningful games. They deserve a nice stadium to go watch that team play in.
Right, and the stadium's obsolete. With the Raiders not there,
Well,
it doesn't need to be a multi-purpose field.
No.
It's like build a baseball field, not
stadium.
one where like
100%.
On Sunday you're watching the Raiders like cross second base. Like no, like
No, I 100%. 100%.
Yeah, baseball was always the afterthought in Oakland, and it's time to change that. And I think that's why Oakland is probably making this move to try to, or the A's are making this move to try to get Oakland to wake up and realize that.
Yeah. So the New York Mets finally hired a GM. They hired Billy Epler from the Angels. The Angels have been so great with their, team management. And also rumors this week, also with the Mets, is this possibility of Buck Showalter coming back to manage for the Mets. How do we feel about that?
I would love that. I love Buck.
I'm just shocked he's still even out there and available. Like, isn't that man ever going to retire?
I love Buck. Like I don't know. I don't know what to say. I love Buck Showalter belongs in baseball in some capacity.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this. All joking aside, I think he's a good manager. When he was in Baltimore, they were not giving him all this talent around to work with. I mean, this wasn't the Yankees that he was working with. Baltimore. I mean, they had some good players, but he does a very good job of doing a lot with what he's given, I think. So, I think the Mets would be smart. Excuse me. If it's out there, if it's real, I think that would be a smart thing for them to do, is to go out, test the water, put out some feelers to Buck and say, hey, they have talent on that roster and some fairly young talent. I mean, they've got guys. They're not, the Braves just won the world. They're probably not winning the division, but they should be able to compete. I mean, with the talent they have on that roster, they should be able to compete. And I think, Buck is a guy that I think is going to be able to get them that clubhouse to play hard 162 times a year. And we'll see, where the chips fall. So I don't hate that move at all. I would like to see Buck back in the game.
Yeah, and I think just like Bob Melvin's the right move for the Padres, who need that
for sure.
older stabilizing force. The Mets need that stronger force that can keep the guys in line, away from the distractions of New York and all that stuff. And I think that's where Buck is so good. He's a no nonsense, kind of tough as nails baseball guy. And they need that. They've had it so easy in New York for so long, and those guys, booing the fans. Buck Showalter would have been grabbing guys by the throat and hauling them off the field if they ever did that. How that ever went down in New York, I'll never understand. But that organization needs a.
To add exactly to your point, Harrison, how little respect a guy like Javi Baez had for Luis Rojas. I mean, he's there for a half a second, and he's already got the guys in the locker room mutiny against the fans. What in the world? In what world would that fly with the old school guys? You know what I mean? In what world?
Oh, could you? I mean, Buck Showalter would have grabbed him by the throat and dragged him off the field, and ultimately that whole thing didn't get shut down by Rojas. It got shut down by Cohen, the owner, who finally said enough.
But I'm just saying,
the manager said nothing, it wasn't even happening.
Right. That's the little respect that they had for that guy and that manager.
Oh, sad.
Just terrible.
Oh, just sad.
Yeah, absolute train wreck there right now. It's sad. Because there is a lot of talent there and just can't do anything with it.
And it's the best market in the world. I'm a Boston guy, but I mean, goddamn, New York is the best market in the world.
Right.
And
you have diehard Mets fans. Mets fans.
Yeah, generational Mets fans.
Exactly. What are you doing? All right, moving on. We got Jose Barrios signed an extension with the Blue Jays, 7 years, $130 million. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I can't. He's good, but
you don't think he's that good?
$130 million. I don't, man. I can't wrap my head around $10, let alone $130 million. It's for 7 years, dude. I don't know if he's necessarily. What does that break down to?
It's got to be 19, right? So 20 a year would be 104. Wouldn't that be 100?
So it's like-
so it's like
yeah, it's like-
19 and a half, 19 and
19
a
and a
quarter.
half a year. Yeah.
I don't know, man. It's a lot.
I think he is a very I think he's nasty. Like I don't hate that at all. Like if I'm a Blue Jays fan, I'm actually looking at that being like, I like that move. Like you're getting out in front. Like when you see what pitchers are going to sign for this year, like I think similar type of pitchers to Jose Barrios. Like I look at, Marcus Stroman as an example. Like I look at Barrios and Stroman as very similar guy, like similar talent, similar stuff, similar kind of pitcher. Like I think Stroman's going to go for well over 20 million a year, like wherever he ends up. And I think Blue Jay fans, which is crazy, but I do.
Yeah.
I
agree with
go
you.
for
It's
that.
just insane.
And I think you're gonna, as a Blue Jay fan, you're gonna look at, you have the AL Cy Young Award winner in your staff. You go out and get a guy like Barrios for, let's just call it on average 19 and a half a year, when that schmuck down the street just paid 24, 23 million a year for Stroman. And I actually think Barrios he's built a little bit bigger. He's taller. He's a little bit kind of bigger. Like I think he's a little bit more durable, lasts a little bit longer than a guy like Stroman. Like I think that's a really good deal for Toronto. And I think Toronto fans are going to be happy for quite a while.
Yeah. They still got Ryu. And then also Nate Pearson is filthy.
Yeah, got to be more consistent. But yeah.
But I mean, he has the stuff. He's only been in the league 2 years, right? 2, 3 years maybe. So I mean, like, it's a good signing, and I don't mind Jose Barrios. It's just I thought it was a little pricey. That's just my opinion on it.
So Barrios is 27, so you sign him for 7 years. You got him until he's 34, 35 years old. So you're not paying for the tail end of the years like all these other guys do with these crazy 10-year deals. You're not paying for a 38-year-old starting pitcher at the end of it. 19 and a half a year may look a little expensive right now, but in a few years probably looks like a bargain. But you look at the guy's numbers, 32 starts, 192 innings pitched, 204 strikeouts, 45 walks. I mean, he went 12-9 with a 3.52 ERA.
And what was his
struck out 200 guys and only walked 45.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can pull up his whip. So
it just
for the
seems to me every
season,
time
his whip was 1.09. I mean,
but like his good starts are phenomenal. But like his bad ones are like bad. Like I don't think there's any outings where he goes in and he has like an okay. Like he gives up 3 or 4 hits, 2 or 3 runs. He either gives up 8 or he throws a perfect game.
Maybe not, but at the end of the year, if you're going to tell me that I have a starter that on average gives up 1 base runner an inning, and I only paid nothing, to me, that's worth 19 and a half a year. That on itself.
Yeah.
Especially with your lineup.
Yeah, I was in the same boat as you, Nick. I looked at the contract the first time, but that's insane. Then you actually, for a guy like that, then you break the numbers down a little bit and look at his age and go, that's actually going to look like a really good contract in a couple of years.
I agree. I think it's going to look like a real good one.
All right, and then the fun one that we get to talk about now is Syndergaard to the Angels, 1 for $21 million. Like, talk about. I only think this is expensive because he's coming off Tommy John, coming off not pitching for 2 years.
Right.
When the guy is on, the guy is absolutely 100% filthy. But is he gonna throw 5 pitches and be done for the season again? Like,
that's the problem with him. I mean, but especially that, to me, there's the problem with signing a guy like him for 1 year. Like, there is a very decent likelihood that you're paying 21, and was it 21 and a half, just over 21, right?
Yeah, something like
that. So you're paying that for a half a year. There's like a really good possibility because the likelihood of him pitching a full season, I just don't see it. I mean, when was the last time he did it? The last time he did it was 2016, I think, when they went to the World Series.
Yeah.
Dude, that's like
2018 he pitched 150 innings. 2019
so he did it.
And in 19 he pitched 197, but he was wearing down at that point towards the end. So,
well, that isn't. Yeah. Okay. All right. So it wasn't as long ago as I thought then. So
but those 150 innings is not a lot. 150 innings is that's Shohei Ohtani innings.
Right, well, yes, but true. I'm just trying to somehow come up with a way where the Angels is like, this is a good idea. Like, I just don't. So go ahead.
No, I think the Angels looked at it and said, "Look, here's a guy coming off Tommy John surgery with big upside, and if it's an utter disaster, it's a 1-year contract, and we move on." But they're trying to buy some love from the fan base, showing they're making a move. And if you get 2016, 2018 Syndergaard, then you're pretty happy about it. If you get 20 and 21 Syndergaard, where his arm's all messed up and he can't really get out there consistently, then it's going to be a complete disaster. And they just made that team worse.
But save the money and spend it on a starting pitcher that you know is going to be there. Like,
yeah,
but like that's what. So you go.
Who's going to be? Who's that going to be though? Like who?
You got Stroman still on the market. You got Scherzer still on the market. Like, put that money in your pocket and save it for I got all this money. I got to spend it. Like, no.
Well, the Syndergaard move tells me the Angels have zero confidence they're going to land a guy like that, because ultimately, why would Scherzer or any of those guys go to Los Angeles? Why would you go to the Angels?
Anaheim,
which is terrible.
Anaheim. Sorry.
You would think Ohtani and Trout would be a big enough pull for anybody to go to, and it's not. No. MLB has got an issue when that's not happening. Like, arguably your two biggest stars in the game can't pull talent to your team.
Syndergaard to me was a panic move by the Angels because they don't feel like they can attract one of the marquee free agents, and this is the best they can do.
It's bad.
That's what it reeks of. That I just that's all I can see is, they're going to take a flyer because nobody else is coming.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're wrong, unfortunately.
That used to be a great place to go. Like there was, I think the years of when Mike Scioscia was manager, they had some really, really good Angels teams there.
Yeah, they did.
Good pitching, good defense. They hit, they ran, and I don't know what the hell happened, but that organization has totally lost its way.
Yep.
But
when
you look at that payroll and everything you're tying up in a couple of guys, really 3 guys, because you got Rendon with a big fat contract too. They got no flexibility. They are strapped into some bad contracts. And I love Mike Trout, and he's probably worth every nickel of $40 million. But how the hell do you build a lineup around a guy making $40 million? He's like a team's payroll almost by himself.
Yeah.
This is why the Red Sox let Mookie Betts go, because they realize they'll never build around a guy making $35 or $40 million a year.
Yeah.
Right.
Can't be done.
And then our last one this evening would be Verlander signed with the Astros for 1 year, $25 million. Also coming off Tommy John.
Yep.
I don't know.
It's going back to an old friend. You know me, I know you. We're comfortable. Let's do this again. I don't think Verlander really explored anything. I do wonder, the conspiracy theorist in me wonders, after Verlander's workout, did he get no positive feedback? Was nobody interested?
Well, he can't work out, right? He's on the shelf. He just had Tommy John.
Well, he had his little not workout, his little get together with all the GMs and all that. I wonder if there was just no interest. So he went back to Houston. It was like, well,
how old is he
do
now?
This one more time.
He's got to be 35, 30, right? 36.
Right?
Yeah, he's late 30s, I want to say.
Yeah, he's got to be around that. Yeah, I don't know. I just whatever. I mean, it's 1 year, but again, the price tag on these guys,
Well, that's what my eyes jumped out at, was $25 million for that.
Yeah.
Well, and the rumor is the Yankees made the same offer, 1 year, 25. Houston said we'll match it, and he said, okay, I'll just come back.
Well, thank God, because I do not want him in New York with the possibility that, he has a good year. He has a Justin Verlander year. But, $25 million coming off Tommy John, man. I'll go
37 years old.
Dude, I'll go rip my UCL out of my elbow right now.
Yeah.
And with a pair of pliers and be like, look, I'm Tommy John. Do I get $25 million? Seriously,
From what I saw, a lot of teams had looked at him, talked to him, thought about it. The only offers he got were Houston and New York. 1 year, 25 for each of them. He went back to what he knows.
Yeah.
If I'm him, though,
soft landing.
That's the easiest decision of all time.
Yep.
If I'm Verlander, I go back to, not only do I know Houston, but
I don't have to move.
We'll get all that.
Yeah.
The Yankee fans in the New York media right now are starving for a championship. Like it's been forever since the Yankees have been in that like in the World Series, in the ALCS. Like it's been, well, they were in the ALCS, but to get to the World Series and compete for a chip, like it's been forever. They give Verlander 1 year, $25 million. They're not going to be happy unless he goes undefeated with like a 0.5 ERA and wins the clincher in the World Series. Like that team, that fan base, and that media. Like if I'm him, I'm staying. If I'm any big name right now, I'm staying away from New York. With what they've done to Garrett Cole, DJ LeMahieu, like these big contracts that the Yankees pay, Giancarlo Stanton. I mean, I know Aaron Judge was a guy that was brought up, but they gave him. Right. These guys are crucified. And I'm not like, by no means am I a Yankee apologist, by no means. But like at a certain point, like you do feel somewhat bad for some of these guys. It's like, dude, like they're doing the best that they can. These guys are really good ball players. They're just put in a tough position and like you just get crucified. If I'm Verlander with the career that I've had at 37 years old, I don't need that shit. I need that shit like a hole in the head. Like I don't need that at all.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like that's the easiest choice of all time.
And Stan's been the only one showing up in the playoffs.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Really. He's the only one.
Which is funny because that was always the knock on him, is that he didn't hit well in big games, and he's the only guy that hit for them in the playoffs. But Verlander did have an open workout 2 weeks ago. He threw about 25 pitches. He was between 94 and 97 consistently, and all 30 teams watched. And out of that, he got 2 one-year deal offers. So I think people looked and just said, we're going to go spend our money elsewhere.
Yeah. It's pretty sad when 97 miles an hour is not even doing it anymore. They're like, you don't throw triple digits?
Yeah.
Well, but it's not. I mean, it's a guy that, I mean, to me, like it's a guy that's got that many innings on his arm. He's been around the block that many times. He's that age. Like, who knows how you're going to come back from something? Like, you can throw consistently between 94 and 97 now. But like, what do you look like on like August 23rd when we need you?
Right. Yeah.
Like Max Scherzer fatigue arm.
Yeah, he's actually 38.
Like, 38. Like, how do you, like, you just don't know how he's going to react.
Yeah.
Like, I would certainly wouldn't throw 25 million. I don't even think I'd throw 16, 17 million at that age.
At a 38-year-old coming off Tommy John, that's silly.
It's crazy.
Yep.
That's silly. I mean, we were talking about Syndergaard making 21, and here's Verlander 38 with $4 more million a year.
Right.
I can't. Okay. Well, yeah. Well, on that note, again, like, follow, share our page, subscribe on YouTube. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys all next week.
Yeah. Thanks everybody.
Guys. Appreciate you.